what's up, everybody? I'm Scott.
I'm Shaté, and we're the Hazes.
And welcome to the Love Haze, where we rethink how we live and love life.
Yep, in life there will always be a haze, but we believe that you have a choice to show up healed and whole anyways.
Absolutely.
And today we are talking about at last, right? So this whole season we've been talking about, what it's like to show up to something for the first time, just kind of being in this new space. And tonight we want to talk about like all the stuff that comes before that, like all the ish beforehand, failed attempts, rejection, mustering up the strength to try again. So we hope you enjoy.
So let's just start here. So the reason why we've called this season of the Love Haze probate season is because when you think about pledging, you're an AKA, I'm an Omega, and everything that leads up to getting to probate, where you like come out in front of the entire yard and everybody kind of knows that you have now crossed the burning sands. And what we're getting into in this episode is really like what led up to that. All of the knowing that you wanted to be, always knowing that I wanted to be a Q. All of the things that happened to me before I was able to cross the burning sands, and kind of what happens next. So probate season is really about we're here now, right? And I'm finally a Q, right? And you're finally an AKA. I finally have the job that I've always wanted, right? I finally have the relationship that I've always wanted. And probate season is probate season. You get to come out to the world, but then what happens after that?
You wear your nail for the first time,
right?
You go to events, you can ski wee and wear your colors and all of that stuff. But what about all the stuff beforehand? And so that's really what we're going to talk about today, is just kind of like finally making it somewhere, whatever that place is for you, when maybe it had not worked out for you before, and what it looks like to try to do something, it not work out, and then you decide to try again. You muster up the vulnerability and the courage that it takes to try it again, even though the rejection and the defeat, the failure may have hurt. For me, I can say, for example, this is not my first time attempting to do a podcast. So I have workingdancer.com, which is now shatéhaze.com, right? We talk about...
Hey, come on, Mrs. Hayes.
Turn up. Hey. So we talk, I still have all of the blog posts that I do. I still connect with dancers and artists about career building and what it takes to sustain a career as an artist. And I had a podcast where I would talk to dancers about how they built their careers and what that looks like for them, because the deficit that I see in the arts world was before. It's talked about largely more now, but people weren't talking about what it took to like make money as an artist. You just kind of had to figure it out once you were in the game, and what it looks like to sustain a career in a gig economy. Like when you are gigging, like what does that look like for it to be sustainable? So I interview artists. We talk about what they do. Some people will solely dance. Some people was teaching. Some people choreography, some people DJing on the side. Like everybody had these kind of ways to make it. So I say all of that to say, did about 20 episodes. It was just me. Some folks listened to it. It wasn't like millions of people all over the world, right?
Right.
I wouldn't necessarily say that it was a failure for me. I really just kind of got burnt out on producing it myself. I was producing all of the content, blog posts, podcasts, online class, everything by myself, which is fine. I got exhausted, and I also kind of started to outgrow having that conversation. Fast forward, and this husband of mine has this amazing gift, has great things to say, and it comes up kind of organically, like, hey, we should do a podcast. And I was like, oh, we've done that. I've done that before. So maybe me doing it before wasn't necessarily for me.
Right.
Maybe it was for this thing, this time right here. But had I not been open to it, would we have done this, right? So it's the idea of like all of the things that came before where you are, that may not have been the success that you wanted them to be, but they served their purpose. They taught you something, and they help you to be your best in this new season. So what's that for you? Like, what's some, and we've all have tons of like stories like that, but what's one thing that sticks out to you that you tried a couple times before it felt right for you?
Well, just even talking about the podcast itself, I think, well, before you, like, there were some seeds that were not planted. Some things that I knew, some gifts that I knew that I had, some things where I knew that God was calling me to do more, and I sat on it because I didn't want to be exposed in that way. So there's always been this thing that has scared me about sharing my gift of writing, of having the gift of gab, of even endeavoring to like be transparent about relationship, where I have been scared because I felt like when you have elevation, like your stuff gets exposed.
Yep.
And people get to see your weaknesses and those things about you that are not all that great, right? And I've always run from that. And I think being in relationship with you and being married to you, it has very much affirmed for me that that God wants me to do this thing, that I have a partner now who has this level of experience, and really there are no more excuses, right? And that there is this expectation that I share my gift with the world, and I can't continue to say, hey, God, advance my territory, and not put some action behind it. And so with that being said, I've been here before in the sense that I've always known, but not being able to kind of like put some feet behind it and put some action behind it.
So what I hear you saying is that for you, almost the fear is the thing that you had experience with. Like you've done the fear thing, you've done the actually I want to do this thing, I'm too scared, I don't know if I can. All of the things that come against everybody, quite honestly, when it's there's some work to be done. But this for you, the new thing is like actually overcoming the fear to do the thing anyways.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And convincing myself that just being a good person was enough. Like, and that I wanted to just kind of like fly under the radar. I just want to be a good person and die.
Safe.
and stay safe and not have to share, and not have to be held to like this higher standard, and not have people like reading my books or listening to my podcast and then being able to point out where what they've seen happen in my actual life not measure up to that I've been talking about, right? And I think that I've been able to somewhat make a shift out of like those fears. And for me, that's really what probate season is about. It's about coming out in front of the entire yard and saying, hey, this is who I am. I'm committed to this, and I'm ready to grow, and I'm ready to be seen.
So then now I just heard a different interpretation of that. So before it was like the fear was the thing that was not new for you. But what I just heard you say basically was like you didn't give up on yourself in a way. So there was something within you that you always knew was there that you needed to act upon. Fear may have kept you from it before.
Absolutely.
But this is you not giving up on yourself and what's inside of you.
Absolutely.
That's nice. That's really nice.
So, Shaté.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, when is the last time you remember having to try a few times before reaching your goal?
Baby. Let's see. I have so many examples of me having to try again. Most recent would be a work situation where I had, like, when I early on starting with the company, and I had been there for 6 months maybe, and there was an opportunity for promotion, and I felt like that I was good for it, like I would have been a great fit for it, and I applied, made it through like all these rounds of interviews, and was passed up for it. I appreciated the way that they handled it. They were just honest and was like, we don't know if you actually want this this job, even though you would be good for it. So we went another direction. But I was hurt. Like, my ego was bruised, and it was like, but wait, I didn't get it. You know what I mean? Like, and that was hurtful. But I continued to do my best work. A few months later, an opportunity that actually was better for me came along, and I obviously am working in that capacity now. But then not only that, my whole career as a professional dancer was, in fact, like, repeatedly going to auditions, sometimes several times a day, hoping to get the gig. Like, I didn't audition for Beyonce so many times. Like, Beyonce just hired me already. Like, repeatedly auditioned, but never, I would get callbacks, and I would get some gigs, don't get me wrong, I got a lot of industrials, but ask me how many times I heard no, or like crashed and burned in an audition, act like I ain't danced not one day in my life, compared to how many yeses I got, right? And that takes a certain amount of mental strength to keep moving past that. Therapy, right? I've tried a couple of therapists, and I have a strong desire to have somebody that works for me, that is my person. And I haven't found that person yet. And so I keep going to these, conversations, just looking for the person that resonates the most with me. Like, I just have examples on examples on examples of me trying to get to the thing that feels right for me. And, it not quite working out the way that I thought it would or had hoped it would the first time around, but me just like going back in there and trying again.
Right.
Okay, so then what's the haze in all of this? What's the thing that is difficult to get through?
So I think mostly, and I'll preface this by saying that this is not a real word, but I think having a level of stick-to-itiveness, being able to know that you have an end goal, you have this destination that you're trying to reach, or this thing that you're trying to attain, and being able to kind of keep plugging away at it, and keep moving forward, even after you've shown up and maybe it hasn't worked out the way that you wanted it to work out, and having to like take a step back and do something different to kind of reestablish your goal, or to adjust your goal to get to what it is that you want ultimately. Having to do something different and make the adjustment. That's really what the haze is for me.
Making the adjustment, for sure. Rejection hurts. So, like, just exposing yourself to that level of rejection. There's the guy, I forget his name, but his whole work is called The Art of Rejection. And so he just repeatedly puts himself in situations where he could potentially be rejected, so that he could desensitize himself to that. And it's inspiring to see, like, that's half the battle for some people. So the rejection or the failure hurting, a bruised ego, naysayers, right? People who, like, they're potentially not out rooting for you, and then the thing fails, and they're like, I'm not surprised. Like that hurts. It's risky. Like, you're taking risks. Being in the arena, getting in the arena is risky, because you could be dragged through the mud.
Yes.
And that's hard. Like, you're signing up for that. You're agreeing to say, hey, like, this could go really, really well, or
it can go terribly bad in this moment. Like, that is one of the hardest things. Not just the showing up part, right? And we've talked about this. The showing up and being vulnerable, and like putting your best foot forward, and knowing that people may not rock with it, and it may not be your best. You may deal with some level of anxiety and all these other things, but I'm here. I am presenting as the very best that I can in this moment. I'm giving you what I got, right? And knowing that what I got may not be for everybody.
And that's okay.
Right. And what do we do after that? And like, what does it look like? How do you deal with the possible rejection? You know, the possible hurt as a fallout.
You know, that's important to, I don't know if you should say plan for, but to at least acknowledge that, you know, like there's a possibility that this might not work no matter how much you've prepared for it. I would say, and you know, hindsight is 20/20. So when you're in situations where you could potentially be rejected or fail, I think it's important to just be present for it and to feel it all. To just feel all the feelings. I know people don't want to necessarily feel negative feelings. They want to numb it. They want to breeze past it. But I think it's important to just feel how you feel and just like allow yourself for a moment to be like, that sucked. That was uncomfortable. Another example from dance audition days. I had auditioned for Dreamgirls, which is one of my absolute favorite musicals of all times. And I'm primarily dancer choreographer, but this was musical theater, and I had choreographed theater before, and had some attempts at having to sing in an audition. But this time I like took it seriously. Like I hired a vocal coach, like was going to, you know, those lessons. I was like literally like putting my best foot forward. And even though I had prepared for those moments, I got in there and I was nervous as all hell. My voice was cracking. Yes. It was shaky. Like I was shaking, and I left and was going to my car, even though the director, Joel, he was so personable and forgiving and understanding and encouraging, which is not always the case, and worked with me, like literally coaching me through my audition. I left the building and cried all the way to the car because I was feeling so exposed, so vulnerable, so like, oh, that sucked. Why did you do that? You just spent all this money on vocal lessons. Right. It didn't work. Like, and the point that I want to drive to, so be present for feeling all of those things, but also know that all things are working together for your good. So a denial, like a delay is not a denial. And that specific situation, I did not get that job, even though like I made it to all the callbacks. I was put on hold. Basically means like we might use you. Right. Don't book anything else until we tell you we're not using you. Followed up as much as I possibly could. Didn't get it. My feelings were butthurt. Cried. Devastated. Fast forward 2 years later, maybe out of the blue, I get a call from the choreographer of that project saying, "Hey, I have this other show, Hairspray, same place, same theater. I need an assistant. Can you do it?" So completely, like I had fully prepared for this one opportunity, when really it was preparing me for something completely different. And that's the case for, I would say, my entire dance career. All of the failures, everything I've gone through has prepared me, given me material to write to other dancers. It says, like, you can get through this. Like, it will not kill you. You are destined for something greater. It was the reason that I was able to, like, reach my students as a dance professor, like, more, like, to help them, like, as they launch their career and tell them the things to look out for. Even as I help, like, adult folks, like, transitioning in their careers today in my today job, like, I have all of those experiences to lean on so that I can be of better support to people, and everything has absolutely worked out for my good, even though in the moment those things really hurt my feelings, like, and really, you know, at one point in time I quit dance altogether. I was like, I'm not doing this no more. I didn't book Beyonce, so it's over with. But God has absolutely used every single one of those experiences for my good and for other people's good too.
And look, I absolutely identify. This is my second marriage.
Is it?
So this ain't my first rodeo. And you know, feeling like I at one point failed in that first marriage, really had me like in this place of like, I'm never doing this again. Yep. Right. I'm gonna be out here and I'm gonna be a player and I'm just gonna do whatever. And I already know that I'm not built like that, right? That's not even who I am, right? But I think when we show up and we show up as best that we can and we fail, right? There's some healing that has to be done. We have to address the fact that we feel hurt. To a degree, we feel rejected. To a degree, we feel like failures. When a lot of times we are being prepared for something that's greater and something that's bigger. A lot of like this probate season, this coming out has been about knowing that like I can be right, and that like God has this destiny for me, and also that there is a renewal and a new thing that God is doing for me, and that I had to experience that thing, right? That sort of rejection, that sort of some missteps that I made in order to be great in this season. Right. To be able to move forward and to be able to have experienced that test so that I can have this testimony, so that I would not be fearful of sharing for people who have maybe made mistakes in their lives, to be able to walk into what it is that God has for them, and to this greatness, and to this, season of being affirmed and being reassured that there is greater later. And there's still more work to be done, but that I am equipped to do what it is that I have to do. And that though it didn't look like what I thought it was going to look like, it didn't happen in the time frame that I thought it was going to happen, and that I made some missteps along the way, that still there is this thing that I always knew that I wanted, and that because I wanted, God wanted for me, that He was equipping me for. But it just didn't look like what I thought it was going to look like. And because it didn't look like what I thought it was going to look like does not mean that it's still not my destiny. It does not mean that it's still not His promise for me. Right. And being able to get and operate outside of my own mindset. Because a lot of the boundaries that are there, or that were there, they were set by me.
Say it again. And oftentimes it's our own limited thinking, right? So if I had gotten Dream Girls, which would have been an exceptional opportunity and I would have loved it, it would have been great. It was a smaller dream for myself than God had for me. Like to participate as an ensemble role member in this one show, or to be assistant choreographer in this other one 2 years later. That's that's a way bigger dream than I had for myself. Also, think about this. Had I gotten that show in Dallas, I likely would not have left, and I would likely would not have made my way back to Atlanta, back to you, right? Like meeting you here in this space. So everything, absolutely, like our steps are ordered, right? If you choose to believe that. And like God's plans for us are way bigger than the plans that we have for ourselves, for sure.
And things happen the way that they're supposed to happen.
100%.
So then I have to know, like, how do you pick yourself up after things don't go your way? Like, how do you keep moving forward? How do you dust yourself off and try again? How do you do that?
What was I doing? I think part of it is just knowing the rules of engagement, right? So I knew what I was getting myself into. That like being a professional dancer choreographer like was meant to audition for these projects over and over, submit for projects over and over, and it's a numbers game. So even though it hurt, it was just an understanding like that this is what it is. But also there was part, if you're just thinking about in life in general, so if you take it to the example that I shared about, not getting a promotion, and then when another opportunity came up, me deciding to apply for it, it's just the idea that, or the knowing within myself that I was made for more, or made for something.
Yes.
Even though I might not have been able to articulate what that something was. And don't get me wrong, I had vision boards of, like artist names that I want to work with, right? Or, ideas of what the success could look like. But there was just always something within me And it's like a persistent feeling that I have, and it's not that I'm not ever satisfied. It's just a knowing, and it's likely because my mother often, when we were younger, always, just randomly in the car, affirmed over us, "You're marked for greatness." Like me and my brother both, "You're marked for greatness. You're marked for greatness." And so those seeds have taken root in my life, and I believe them. And so there is always something within me that, like there is more. Not in a like I'm not ever gonna be satisfied way, but there is a desire to do more, to be more within me. What about you? What's the thing that keeps you? So you said, after the first marriage, you're like, I'm not doing this again. It's over with. So then, what was the thing that made you feel like, actually, I can open up and try this again?
I think just like there was this urging that I had. I feel like from not only from God, but from the people who were in my immediate circle, who were just affirming me in that moment and just saying, "Hey, it's okay. I know what type of man you are. I know that there's better for you, right? I know that you believe these different things." Even when I was talking to my boys about like I'm about to get out here and I'm a hoe, right? I'm a hoe around for a little bit. My boys would literally like laugh in my face and be like, "Hey, dude, like stop, like we not even doing that." Like, and my mom and my dad, and just affirming for me that they knew that there was greater for me, and I knew, and God and I were having these conversations, right? Even when I was going through like the hard stuff, God was consistently affirming for me that you are a man after my own heart, right? You are a good man, right? You are a good husband. You will be a good father. You like hearing God say those things about me, and in the midst of hearing like negative things about myself, and making the decision that I'm choosing what God said, right? Even in those times when I would start to lean towards the negative things that were being said about me in those moments, and wanting to believe like maybe that is true. Like maybe I'm not worth it. Maybe I can't change. Maybe I can't be anything more than just this. Maybe I'm destined to be a player, when everybody else around me knew that wasn't real for me, right? And being able to lean into what God was saying about me, and then set my goals around that, to be the man that God had told me that I could be, right? And then being able to go about like living my life in that way, and walking into that, leaning into it, walking into it, and saying, this other thing is not even an option. Let's be real with ourselves. That's not gonna happen. Let's go about the business of doing something different.
Believing what God says about you and choosing that. That's the word for you, right there.
Amen. All right. So, because you and I both love music, I need to know, with everything that we covered today, what is your music for the moment? What does this feel like?
Well, you already gave it away because you were singing it before, but it's Alia. Aaliy. Dust yourself off and try it again.
Amen.
Doom, 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 doom. Like, first you don't succeed. Yep. Dust yourself off and try again. It's perfect for this. And we always want to leave y'all with a resource, something that you can, grapple with, process the topic on your own time, a good takeaway. And for me, that is, so I love Super Soul Sunday. I don't get to watch it every Sunday, but when I tell you some amazing conversations being had about how to live life to the fullest and the work that people are doing, and some amazing book ideas being discussed on Super Soul Sunday. So this one in particular is Maya Angelou, just talking about kind of like failure and trying again. And we know that Dr. Maya Angelou, fun facts, who was a dancer also before she became a writer. So I feel like she is like, we are kindred spirits. We know that she's Oprah's mentor. So this clip, or was Oprah's mentor, this clip was really about Maya Angelou talking about how everyone has lived their life and has learned things, and that we can learn from everybody's story, and that can help us kind of move on, is what I took from it. Huge fan of it, huge fan of her work, huge fan of Super Soul Sunday. So check it out. I hope it blesses you the way that it has blessed me.
All right, y'all. That's it for this episode and for this season, actually. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for rocking with us. We're the Hazes. And until next time, we challenge you to rethink the way you love your life. Peace. It's the Love Haze. Why did it take so long to come to me? Oh, baby. And